guys, and welcome to another Ponytails with Kellyanne video. This one's kind of like a get ready or go for a morning ride with me. So this is about kind of 6:15 in the morning. And as you can see, I've brought Zeus in and I'm giving him a little groom. I'm quite lucky because he's quite a dark bay colour, so he doesn't show too much dirt, but I use this little plastic curry comb to focus on his legs and kind of where it gets a little bit muddy from where he's gone down and had a roll overnight. His current routine is that he is in the day and out at night, so I'm just giving his legs a good groom, checking his legs over to make sure there's no injuries, and as you can see here, I never kneel down or sit down when doing their legs. You always kind of crouch. Oh, you can see a bit of dust coming off of him there. But yeah, you never kneel down and you always crouch by the horse's legs, just in case and anything's kind of spooked them or worried them. You can kind of get out of the way quite quickly. You're not sat on the floor to get trampled. But yeah, just carry on using this curry comb just on the inside and the outside of his legs, kind of checking over for any injuries. He doesn't like it, as you can see down the back of his heels. That's because in the winter he is prone to a little bit of mud fever, and he always thinks that I'm going to kind of pick his scabs off. Here I thought he had a little injury on his legs, as you can see I'm looking at it, but he didn't, luckily. It was just a bit of loose hair, and then I kind of focus on the kind of saddle area just in case, and the girth area especially, just in case there's any dirt or sweat or anything from the night before, to kind of make sure that doesn't irritate him when I ride him and put his girth on today. And then yeah, I kind of do the other side. As you can see here, Zeus is really enjoying his haylage, bless him. He gets about 1 or 2 sections of haylage a day, and I always put it on top of his hay bar, but underneath is all his hay, so he knows that this is the good stuff. So the first kind of like hour or so when I'm kind of riding him and grooming him and tacking him up and stuff, he's enjoying his haylage, so it's quite nice. It keeps him distracted, keeps him still for a little bit. He's not too fidgety anyway, he knows not to be, but yeah, he's loving that haylage. He's so cute, bless him. But yeah, carrying on focusing on the other side, on the legs, making sure there's no injuries, no issues. I have already picked his feet out, guys, before he's gone into his stable, so please don't think, oh god, she's forgotten to pick his feet out. I haven't. I always do that before he goes into his stable, because on our car park where we walk them through from the field, there are quite a few like little stones, so I don't really like picking his feet out in his stable, just in case that gets any of the stones in his stable and they get stuck in his shoes or kind of cause any bruising to his sole. He is fully shod, but we do sometimes get some kind of big sharp stones that can bruise their feet. Oh, he obviously doesn't want his face being touched there, because it's going to take him away from his haylage, which he doesn't want. And as you can see, that mane is an absolute nightmare. Oh, but yeah, I'm carrying on grooming him, giving him a flick over. So I'm using 2 types of brushes here. I'm using a little plastic curry comb, which I believe is a HY one. They're just bought from my local tack shop. And then I've got the one of the Shire's flick brushes. And this kind of works really well for this time of year when there's kind of like surface dust, and I can just flick the dirt off. But yeah, I'm checking him to see if there's any scabs or any mud fever, which there isn't. But yeah, just making sure that when you groom them before you ride, you're kind of checking them over, making sure that they're all in kind of tip-top condition. They're all kind of so much dust on his bum, isn't it? I don't know what he's done with his bum overnight, but he's probably rolled it in a dirt patch. But yeah, just to make sure that there's no injuries, no issues, nothing that's going to aggravate or affect the saddle. But yeah, I kind of very briefly brush his face there. But yeah, and then I'm putting the brushes back. And then it's time for me to go and get, I realised that I'd forgotten my tail brush, my mane and tail brush. So I've gone to go and fetch that. And then I come back and I start work on his mane and his tail, which is all lovely and done. And then I start tacking him up. So here I'm using the Woofwear GP Lime Pad. It is a little bit dirty because I used it the other day. So apologies, I haven't washed it yet. And then I get my saddle out. So I always bring my saddle out of my little saddle stand, put the girth over his back, and then kind of grab the girth. So I'm not doing it all at once. I don't really want it all getting tangled up. I do separate my girth and my saddle pad from each other, just because I find that when you're cleaning it, or if you're just like, if sometimes I ride in bareback, everything's all kind of not attached, so I can just get it all on and off easily. I take the saddle cover off and then I kind of adjust it. So you can see I moved the saddle a bit further forward. It was a little bit far back there. I lift it up at the wither, and as you can see on the other side, I'm attaching the straps to the saddle, and I attach that side of the girth. And I will come round in a second and do the other side. Zeus is a little bit of a pain. He does kind of puff out when I tack him up. So when you see me come round and do the girth this side, so I'll quickly attach the strap. I always like to make sure, because the straps, once the girth's on, you can't really do the straps. It's not very easy. So yes, I make sure it's all aligned, and then pull the girth up, and I always have to put it on the first hole on each side just to start with. And on this side, I actually don't put it through the girth hoop on the saddle pad straight away, just because again, it's another thing you kind of got to fiddle around with. And the quicker you can put the girth up with him, the less he's likely to puff out. You can see he's there looking at me, putting his ears back, listening, thinking, oh, I'm going to puff out now, make this really difficult to do this girth up. But yeah, and then when I do the second strap on this side, I hook it under the girth hoop, then I undo the first strap again and hook that under, because the other side's already hooked up and in place. I make sure that that's kind of all aligned, there's no pinching, and it's a nice kind of width away from his elbow. I will quickly do the girth up each side again, just one more hole before I get on. I tend to do up a lot of my girth when I'm on, because that's when he kind of is less likely to puff out. But yeah, I will then, Zeus has got quite a long mane, and he has a bit of mane that is right at the top of his wither. And I have to kind of take out his mane because it gets under his saddle and under his saddle pad. And I always think to myself, if he's walking and he's got hair kind of caught under it, it's got to cause him a little bit of pain. But yeah, so I've checked over the saddle, I've taken the hair out, I've stretched his legs. I've done that one twice because I didn't feel he put enough effort in, just to kind of take it away from any pinching or any kind of build up of skin under the girth, which I then check. And then because my sharer rode him in the saddle last night, I changed my stirrup leathers because I am much shorter than my sharer. She's a young girl, bless her, and she's quite tall. So she does a lot of kind of like schooling work with him. So I kind of shorten my stirrups so that they're more for my riding length. Luckily, we both know what each hole we are. So this is quite easily adjusted. So yeah, so that's all done. Now it's time to get me ready quickly and then put his boots on. So I've got my boots, my half chaps and my hat here. So that's all going to go on in a second. There we are. So that's all done. I tend to wear boots and half chaps because instead of long boots, just because I'm a slightly shorter, slightly larger rider, and it's much easier for me to kind of get a better fit with boots and half chaps than it is riding boots. And I also can slip my whip down the inside. I don't use it necessarily for Zeusy. It's more just in case there's any dogs, because we go out in the woods and it is a public area. There are a lot of dog walkers and that around, and it just kind of prevents any, if there's any issues with dogs, I can kind of not hit them with it, but I kind of just shoo them away. It kind of deters them a little bit. But here you can see I'm putting on Zeus's brushing boots. So he wears these every time I ride him because he has got quite a close gait and he does track up quite well, which is also why he wears the overreach boots all the time. He wears those in the field and when we ride. But the boots, so the straps, these brushing boots are the Woofwear ones. They're the club boots, and the straps, as you can see, always go to the back. And I feel down to make sure that covers his fetlock joint. just to make sure that obviously that's the part that brushes and bangs together that I'm trying to prevent from getting injured. So I just make sure that they're all fitting correctly, and I'll adjust them if they need it. And then here I'm putting on Zeus's bridle, so he wears these ears. He's quite sensitive with his ears. He's quite good at letting me put these on because I've been doing it since he was a youngster, and he knows that it is there to kind of help him, and he hates those little midges and stuff getting in his ears, and he hates it when I touch his ears anyway, so he just finds it really annoying. So he always wears his little matchy ear bonnet. And then here I've put the reins over his head. I'm just sorting out how the bridle is going to go on. I need to remove all the haylage, and he's like, Mum, let me eat. He's really good at taking his bit because he takes it straight away, and then his head wants to go straight back in to eat the haylage. But here, yeah, I've slipped the bridle on. I'm adjusting the cavesson and the brow band just to make sure that it's not too tight or pushing in on his temples. The cavesson that he has is a flash cavesson, but he doesn't need, or I don't use the flash, but it's always good to have it just in case, because I always think you can get the adapters, but I just never think they look as good. And then I do the noseband. This noseband is actually a crank noseband, so it hooks through a little loop and then kind of goes back onto itself to adjust. I really like these, and I actually think this is quite a nice chunky one. Zeus hasn't got the biggest face, and I didn't want one that's going to kind of overpower him, but I thought this is a nice bit of chunk to it. And I also really like this bridle because it's got kind of like a padded bit over his poll, so it's a bit more comfortable for him. But yeah, so the noseband is all done up and adjusted, and then I'll do the same with the throat lash. Just make sure that it's all kind of right. Oh, I've got a nice little bit of haylage on my bum there. That's nice, isn't it? Thanks, Cece. So yeah, so that's all kind of, I'm just doing up his throat lash now, making sure that's all done. Give him a bit of a pat, give him a pat, good boy. And then I've got my little treat pocket. So my little treat pouch that I attach to the front D on my saddle. Again, this is just in case Zeus gets a little bit impatient when we go out riding. So yeah, it's always good to have a couple of treats when you ride, just in case. But yeah, so now we are in the woods. This is actually quite a steep hill. Doesn't really show too much on the camera, but yeah, I kind of let Zeus have his neck and kind of lean back a little bit. His mane is a bit wild today when we rode, and it was a little bit windy, so the wind was catching it. I'll put the mad mane down to the wind. But yeah, he's really, really good at going downhill. He's like a little mountain goat. But on the ride this morning, he was actually a little bit kind of wary. I don't know why. He was kind of kept like looking behind him a little bit. He was very anxious is probably the right word. I don't know why. Some horses, as people with horses know, some days horses have good days and some days they have bad days. This is by far not a bad day. Zeus is a really, really well behaved horse. My sharers are quite novice, and he does a really, really good job of looking after them. And then with me, he kind of is a little bit more himself because he knows he can. I broke him. I've had him his whole life, and he kind of goes, oh, mummy, tell me that I'm all okay and it's all right. So he's a little bit more kind of reactive with me, but I prefer it like that. I don't want him to kind of hide anything. If he's kind of having an off day, I want him to kind of tell me. And all I done on this ride is I didn't do anything other than walk. I stuck to kind of the bigger sandy track, so he didn't feel as enclosed, and a little bit less anxious. And I also kind of gave him his head a little bit. He's been around these woods, like I said, since he was 6 months old, so he's very, very calm and relaxed around these woods anyway. But I kind of gave him his rein a little bit and just kind of let him kind of have a little wander and try and settle down into it. And he did do that beautifully. As you can tell, he's not holding his head particularly high. His ears are going, but that's only just because he's paying a bit of attention. There was a dog walker when we were on this track, and he had 2 dogs that were loose. There was a fence between us, so that was fine. but he just wanted to kind of like, he was a bit like, oh, what's that going on over there? And as you can see here, his head is a little bit higher. He's walking out a little bit more. This is when we'd already turned to go home. We only went for a short kind of 30-minute ride this morning. We're really lucky with the yard that we're at. It backs straight onto the woods, so there's no road work. And then these woods, you can go out for... Well, there's a tiny little road if you want to go a little bit further, but you could ride for kind of 10 minutes, or you can ride for 45 minutes in these woods. And then if you wanted to go a little bit further, which I tend to do on a weekend, is you can actually go out riding for, you know, up to a couple of hours. There's quite a big woods the other side of that little small road, and that's where Zeus is looking. He's thinking, oh, are we going to the second woods? No, Zeusy, we're heading home. We're going to have some breakfast. I'm actually puppy sitting for my dad today, so I needed to get back. It was only a very short ride, but because he was anxious as well, I cut it even shorter than planned, just because I wanted him to kind of enjoy it and relax into it. And as he was doing that, he's walking out really nicely here. He's not refusing anything. He's not being particularly spooky. He's just a little bit more kind of on edge today, but that's fine. We can cope with that. He's doing really, really good. And as you can tell, he's, like I said, he's walking out, he's going home, and he's having his breakfast, which he loves. But yeah, it was really quiet actually. There was only a couple of people with dogs, so it was quite quiet. There wasn't many people about. It was quite nice. And here he is. He knows he's nearly on the stretch to go home. This bit, after this bit of the woods, it gets a little bit darker. Here you go, you can see it's a little bit darker now. And this is the track heading back towards the gate. I'm showing you that I've got him on a nice loose rein. And yeah, this is probably the most enclosed track we went on today. And this is just because it couldn't be avoided. It's the track to go home. And you'll see the gate to the woods in a minute. Because we have a little gate, and then that's straight onto our yard. That's the boys, effectively it's the boys' winter field, so they're not in there at the moment. Oh, he's looking up there. Just wanted to see if he was looking at anything. But yeah, there's a little gate just at the end of this track, which backs straight onto the boys' winter field. So it does mean that in the winter, if we're going out riding, we do have to go through the geldings' field. But the geldings are fine. They're all used to it. They actually have two fields, and they tend not to, the one with the gate in, they tend not to go through. But it is a public bridleway. People walk through it all the time with their dogs or with their animals, or whoever, if they're going on runs or bikes. We get a lot of cyclists as well going through these woods. But Zeus and the geldings in the fields are all very, very accustomed. We've never had them breaking into the woods, so they've never kind of gone through. And the gate does lock on itself. It's got a horse lock, so it's quite good. And we've also got a mountain block the other side, or this side of the gate into the woods, just in case people aren't comfortable going through the geldings field. They can kind of get off, walk down, get off, do the gate, get through the field, and then when they're actually safely back into the woods, there's a mountain block that they can all get back on, because it's not good to kind of get on from the floor really. I can do it. I'd done it a couple of weeks ago when I needed to, but it's not ideal. It's not good for their back either. It kind of pulls a lot, especially because I'm a slightly larger rider. I don't like to get on from the floor if I can help it, because I'm a bit too heavy for him for that. But yeah, he's enjoying heading back. The gate is just in sight. It's literally so close. There it is. It's literally the other side of those trees. And yeah, he's so excited to be back home. He got a little bit spooky, so it will go straight into the field to go back to the yard, because there's a horse box by our school at the moment, and that's not normally there. And he saw it from the woods, and he was a bit like, oh God, what's that? Even though he'd already walked past it to go in, he was still looking at it. But yeah, so I skipped that bit because I just wanted both hands to kind of get him through. But yeah, he's now back in the field to go home. This is the geldings, like I said, the geldings winter field. You'll see the box in a minute that he was spooking at. But actually, when he walked past it, he wasn't really scared of it at all. It was fine. But yeah, he was a bit like, oh, that's not normally there. Because Zeus is an Andalusian, he's very, very hypersensitive to things when they're different. Like, he notices, you know, in the spring when all the flowers start to come out, or in the autumn when all the plants tend to die off, he tends to notice and he tells me. But yeah, so this is us. I'm off now. We're back at the yard. I'm off. We're walking back to his stable. I'm going to untack him and then give him his breakfast. So yeah, he's now all untacked. He's having his favourite treat, which is a stud muffin. I actually gave him 2. He normally only gets 1, but today he had 2. These are by far his favourite. They're a little sugary treat, but because he's such a good boy, oh, I nearly ate some of it there. They always live in my little tack locker, and he knows as soon as he's untacked and I'm all undressed from all my horsey stuff, he knows he gets one, and he has a little cuddle and a little bit of a stroke to tell him he's being a good boy. He's such a good boy. Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. Yeah, he's like, yeah, thanks, mummy. Can I have my breakfast now? So, yeah, okay. So I've made his breakfast. His breakfasts were already made because I made them the other day. And I'm just cutting up an apple for him. So he has 1 apple in his feed. He tends to not like other fruit, other vegetables, really. So he's not too keen on carrots, and he's not too keen on parsnips or Swedes. His favourites are apples. So again, as everyone knows, he also has his treat ball. There'll be hell to pay if he didn't have his treat ball every day with his breakfast or his dinner. In the winter he has it overnight, and then obviously because he's in the day at the moment, he will have it all day, and it's just got some Fibre Plus nuggets in, the Bailey's Fibre Plus nuggets. But yeah, put a little bit of water, always put a little bit of water in with your horse's feeds, just prevents them from getting any choke or anything. You don't have to drown it. I just put a little bit of water in, stir it all through with the apple, and it's a lovely, lovely feed. So I have got, and I will do a feeding video. So Zeus is actually on the Dengie Meadow Grass and the Spillers Senior Balancer, and then a little bit of garlic, and he has one of the Dodds and Horrell breathing herbal supplements. And he's now ready for his breakfast. Zeusy. He's like, oh yes, best time of the day. But yeah, so I put his breakfast in his little corner feeder. As you can see, I do need to do a spring clean of my stable. I am going to do that in the summer, and I will record it all for you, and that'll be another video. But yeah, he has his ballie, has his feed, and I like to feed him upright. Again, it just kind of prevents him from getting any choke. If he spooks or anything, it's good. But then yeah, I just check to make sure he's got all of his hay, his feed, water, everything's all done for the day, and that's it all kind of done really. The locker's all shut up and he's all ready for the day. So thank you for watching my video. Say bye to Zeusy. He's playing with his ballie. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe because it really does help me out. Be kind to yourselves and your horses, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.